There's a strange, almost invisible moment in the life of a man. It's the day he realizes he has followed every instruction, every expectation, every unwritten rule society handed him, and yet he feels hollow. We rarely talk about it. We dismiss it as a midlife crisis, as though giving it a name somehow makes it less dangerous. But deep down, you and I know this is not about age. It's about the truth. They call it the psychology of men who walk away from society's script. But I call it the day a man stops acting in a play and starts living his own life. Picture this: a man named Jonathan, born in the late 1970s, a quiet, disciplined soul. He worked hard in school, earned a respectable job, got married, bought a house, raised his kids exactly as the world told him he should. On paper, he was successful. In reality, something inside him was breaking. Late at night, when the house was silent, he would sit in the dark and feel the weight of a question pressing on his chest. Is this all there is? And that question is dangerous, because once a man dares to ask it, the script begins to fall apart. Jonathan began to notice how much of his life felt rehearsed. Every greeting at work, every polite laugh at a boss's joke, every predictable weekend at the same restaurants, with the same conversations, with the same unspoken rules about what a good man does. He wasn't ungrateful. He wasn't rebellious. He was just awake. And when a man wakes up inside a script, he has two choices: go back to sleep or walk away. Most men go back to sleep. They bury the question under a new car, a promotion, a vacation, anything to quiet the sound of their own thoughts. But some men, they take the other path. They choose the road that costs them everything. And Jonathan decided to walk. At first, no one noticed. His job performance was still good. He smiled at the right times. But inside, he was packing his bags, not physical bags, but mental ones. He was preparing to leave the expectations, the social obligations, the identity that had been built for him since birth. Why? Because he realized something terrifying, yet liberating. He didn't belong to the script belonged to him. That's when society begins to whisper. First, it's curiosity, then concern, and finally, condemnation. Why is he acting different? Has he lost his mind? What's wrong with him? But Jonathan hadn't lost his mind. He had found it. And here's the part that shakes people. When one man walks away from the script, he doesn't just free himself. He exposes the prison everyone else is still living in. That's why society resists these men so fiercely. It's not because they're wrong. It's because they're a mirror. And no one likes seeing their own chains. Jonathan's story is not rare. It has happened for centuries, different cultures, different eras, the same awakening. And if you've made it this far into this story, maybe a part of you already feels that same quiet unrest inside. That's why I want you to stay here. Keep listening, because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about success, freedom, and the hidden cost of living by someone else's rules. Subscribe to the channel, stay close, because the truth is about to get uncomfortable. Jonathan didn't leave in a blaze of rebellion. There was no dramatic resignation letter, no angry speech, no public declaration of freedom. He simply began to live differently. It started with small things. He stopped attending certain social events. He declined invitations that felt more like obligations than joy. He began spending more time in solitude, not in bitterness, but in clarity. And here's the truth: most people will never admit. Walking away doesn't always mean leaving your job or your family. It means stepping away from the silent contracts, the invisible agreements that tell you who you are supposed to be. Jonathan stopped playing roles he didn't believe in, and that scared people more than any loud rebellion could. You see, when a man stops pretending, the world notices. But Jonathan wasn't the first to feel this shift. Throughout history, we've seen this same quiet departure. The Buddhist monks who left behind wealth and titles to seek enlightenment, the desert fathers of early Christianity who abandoned cities to live in silence and prayer, even the Prophet Muhammad retreating to the cave of Hira, stepping away from Mecca's endless noise to listen. Different eras, different faiths. Same truth. A man must sometimes step away from the world to hear his own soul. Jonathan's friends began to ask questions. Are you depressed? Are you okay? But what they didn't understand is that peace can look like sadness to those who are still trapped in the race. Psychologists have a term for this: individuation. Carl Jung described it as the process of becoming your true self, a path that often pulls you away from the crowd. Jonathan was beginning to feel what many men fear, the loneliness of truth. But here's where the story twists. The loneliness wasn't killing him, it was healing him. In the quiet, he began to see the machine for what it was. The endless loop of work, buy, sleep, repeat, the social script that promised happiness if you just follow every step, but somehow kept moving the finish line. The more he stepped away, the clearer it became. The script was never designed to make you free. It was designed to keep you in place. And once a man sees the bars of his cage, he can never unsee them. That's why walking away is so dangerous. Not to the man, but to the system. Because one man's quiet freedom is more contagious than 1,000 speeches. Think of the Stoic philosophers. Epictetus, a slave who became free not because Rome granted it, but because his mind was unshackled. Think of Diogenes, who walked through Athens with a lantern in daylight, saying he was searching for an honest man, living in a barrel while mocking the vanity of the elite. Men like Jonathan are not always rebels. Sometimes they are reminders, living proof that the script is optional. And that brings us to the psychology society doesn't want to face. When someone leaves the script, it creates discomfort in those who stay. Psychologists call this defensive projection. It's easier to call Jonathan unstable or irresponsible than to confront the quiet question, am I truly happy? Society has built-in defenses to keep the script alive. We label, we judge, we shame. Not because the walker is wrong, but because his choice threatens the entire structure of belonging. Jonathan knew this, and yet he kept going. His days looked different now. No more endless chasing of promotions, no more trying to impress people whose opinions he didn't value. He spent more time reading, walking in nature, learning skills that brought him joy rather than status. And here's the irony. He wasn't poorer for it. In fact, he was richer in ways money could never measure. But society doesn't measure life in peace. It measures it in productivity. This is why walking away can feel like a kind of social death. You lose your place in the hierarchy. Friends drift, colleagues stop calling, invitations fade. It's lonely, but it's also liberating. And this is the moment that separates those who return to the script from those who never look back. Some men can't bear the silence. They come running back, apologizing to the world, asking to be written back into the play. But others, like Jonathan, find that the silence is where life finally begins. It's strange, isn't it? We are raised to believe that freedom is about having choices, but real freedom is about no longer needing approval. And that kind of freedom scares people. Jonathan's journey wasn't a sermon. It wasn't a call for everyone to leave their jobs, sell their possessions, and vanish into the mountains. It was something simpler, yet more radical. It was a reminder that the script only works if you agree to act in it. And the moment you stop playing your part, the story changes. This is why I say to you, if you've ever felt the quiet pull, the whisper that says there's more to life than this, you are not broken. You are not failing. You might just be waking up. And waking up is the first step toward walking away. Stay here. Don't turn away. Because what happens when a man finally walks is far more shocking than anyone expects. Subscribe to the channel, follow along, because the final chapter of Jonathan's journey will change the way you see your own life. Jonathan didn't leave with fanfare. There was no single day when he shouted, "I'm free," and slammed the door behind him. It was quieter than that. Freedom came slowly, like snow melting after a long winter, drop by drop. He noticed it the first time he woke up without an alarm. The sun streamed through the curtains, and for the first time in decades, there was no rush, no meeting to prepare for, no performance to give, just silence. But silence is a strange thing. At first, it feels empty. Then it begins to speak. In that silence, Jonathan heard the faint echoes of who he used to be before the script, the boy who loved painting, the young man who used to take long walks at midnight just to look at the stars, the person who valued wonder before he learned to value productivity. And slowly, he began to live again. Not the life society approved of, but the life his soul recognized. It wasn't without cost. Friends drifted further away. Former colleagues, still in the race, looked at him with a mixture of pity and suspicion. Some whispered that he had wasted his potential. Others warned their children not to end up like him. But Jonathan didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He had learned the quiet truth. You cannot convince someone to leave a script they still believe in. Walking away isn't about changing the world. It's about no longer letting the world change you. And here's the part people rarely understand. Jonathan wasn't angry at the script. He wasn't bitter. He saw that for some, the script works. It provides structure, stability, purpose. But for others, it becomes a cage. And once you see the bars, you can't pretend they aren't there. Psychologists call this the point of no return. Once a person reaches a certain awareness, the old life becomes unbearable, no matter how comfortable it appears from the outside. Jonathan had crossed that point. His days were different now. He grew his own vegetables, read books he had ignored for years, traveled when he felt like it, not to impress, but to explore. The remarkable thing? He wasn't hiding. He wasn't disconnected from the world. In fact, he was more connected than ever. But his connection was on his own terms. That's the quiet revolution society doesn't notice. A man who is no longer owned by the script is impossible to control. And the system thrives on control. Jonathan's story isn't about everyone quitting their jobs or selling their homes. It's about recognizing when you are living someone else's life and finding the courage to stop. Walking away is not running away. It's walking toward something, toward truth, toward freedom, toward a life that feels like your own. And here's the beautiful, unsettling truth. Once you walk away, you never really come back. Even if you re-enter the world, you carry something different inside you. A stillness, a sovereignty, a knowing. Jonathan understood this. And though the world may never write songs about him, though his story may never appear in history books, his life became a quiet testimony, a reminder that freedom is rarely handed to you. It is something you must quietly take back. And maybe, as you listen now, you feel a small pull in your own chest, a whisper you've ignored. I am not here to tell you to abandon everything. I am here to remind you to question the script you were given. Because somewhere, in the spaces between the noise, you may discover that the life you thought you were supposed to live was never yours to begin with. If this speaks to you, if you felt even a spark of recognition, stay with this channel. Subscribe, follow. There are more stories, more truths, more quiet revolutions waiting for you, because one day, maybe soon, you will find yourself at the same crossroads Jonathan did. And when you do, you will know. The script can be left behind, and the life that's truly yours can finally begin.